Hi, it's Troy at the Full Setup here, back with another video for you today, and today we're doing a full build log of a budget-based system. Now this system you can build for $450, maybe just under, and around about just over £400 UK, excluding an operating system. Now I'll be doing a full build log with this. There's going to be loads of tips and tricks as well, because it's a budget-based build, and I speak to loads of like budget builders all the time, or people that have never built a PC before, so yeah, loads of tips and tricks in here. Now the system we're building today, it's based on a Intel Skylake Pentium processor, G4400, and a 1050 Ti. Not the best gaming build that you could do, but for on a budget it is probably one of the best. And one of the great things about this is that you can upgrade the processor. This is the PC here that we're going to be building today, and I've actually been using this on my channel for the last few weeks, showing various Pentiums, Celeron processors. Also I have some i5 benchmarks on this as well, with numerous graphics cards. Anyway, I think I'm going to take you in to build it. At the end there will be some benchmarking, some game footage as well, but if you want to see lots more game footage and extended game footage of this system running, I would recommend that you go over to my channel. So the first thing I needed to find for this build was a good case, but a good case that's cheap. Now you can get loads of great cases for just over £30, $30 from like Corsair and Thermaltake, but under that price range, it's for every good case you've got, like this case today, which is an Aerocool Qs240, for every one case, there's 9 or 10 really bad cases. And the reason I like this case is it generally looks quite nice. You've got an all black finish. One thing you will find with cheap cases is the plastic and the metal will never sort of match in colour. It's got like nice grille all on the front. It came with one 120mm included fan, which I'll show you in a second. And then there's an IO shield at the top as well, where we've got USB 3, 2 USB 2.0s, audio, and then you've got your power. Now a couple of things to mention of why. We'll show you on the inside why I love this case, and the power supply is in here at the moment. We'll talk about the power supply in a minute. Let me just make sure that's in shot and camera. Now the reason I really like this case is basically for the fan sizes on them. Now you'll find with a lot of cheaper cases, I don't know if you remember seeing the CIT Barricade case that I painted last year, the rear fan here will be a 92mm. This is a 120, which means you can install a bigger CPU cooler. There's also two 120s in the top and in the front here, which means you can insert a bigger cooler. Now I find for a lot of systems, especially if you're using something a bit more toasty like an AMD rig, also with an older AMD graphics card, the 92mm fan, and then it probably won't have any top fans, just doesn't shift enough air out. Also, we'll talk about fans a little bit more in a minute as well. When you're on a budget build, you generally only have one fan header spare, so it's really important that you have all of the same fans in for PWM, so you want the same size, so you get a nice fan profile. Now, although this case ticks all the boxes for me and what I want for cooling the system, cable management is always going to be hard on a budget case. As you can see here from the real panel, I haven't really got a lot of place to put all the cables. So luckily this case comes with exactly what I love, a little hard drive caddy down at the bottom here. So I'm going to stick one hard drive in, and then I've got all my power supply cables under here. As for my power supply, I'm using an EVGA 500 watt wide. I priced this system up for the cost that I mentioned earlier, with I think using their 430 watt power supply, which will still be absolutely fine. I've just got a 500 watt one lying around, so that's what I'm going to use. Also as well, you can see that I've sort of organised all the IO cables. Now most of those were just hanging down here, but you can quite easily, this is one thing always to consider, I like to get the case maybe a week before really, and then I can sort of plan exactly how I'm going to build it. It gives me a really good scope to figure out what cables I need. You can see I've just sort of got all the cables organised down here. Now you would normally have the fans in the front here. I'm going to mount them in this side. It does reduce the size of the graphics card you can put in there, but honestly, for most cards that you're going to be buying on a budget system, it should fit fine. And I love these panels come off really easy as well. Like my Corsair case next to me, I cry every time I try and pull that off, because I think you've got to pull it so hard, I feel like I'm going to snap the case in half. So there we go, as you can see I've got the USB cables, got all my power in place. Got all my power cables as well, and everything nice and tidy under there. We've got a graphics card cable that can come up as well. So there we go. Most important thing on building a PC, plan it out a couple of times, take your time, don't get overexcited. I always get overexcited. Anyway, so now that's all installed, let's have a look at the storage. Okay, so the first thing to consider with your storage, the first thing you always do when you're building on a budget, have I got an old computer? Have I got a laptop that's broken? Yes, I have. Well, we can take the hard drive out of that. Here we go. It's like a random 250 I pulled out of a laptop the other day, and we can use that to store some games on. So always consider that. The other thing to consider as well, when you're on a budget, a lot of people say to me, oh, I can't afford an SSD and a hard drive. Yes, you can. Here is a hybrid drive. I don't rate hybrid drives. When the 8GB of NAND flash kicks in, it is okay. But let's just say, for an example, this is a 1TB hybrid desktop drive. It will cost about £65. For the same price, you could buy a 60 or 120GB SSD for your system drive and a 1TB hard drive. Yeah, I've priced this system with the cheapest 60GB SSD and a 1TB drive. Now, my storage solution cost me even less because I bought this secondhand £15 and my friend gave me this Western Digital 1TB black for my games. So yeah, my storage solution has cost me all of £15. So let's put this in the case. As for installing the drives, now they have got quick releases on them, but one thing you'll notice is the drive, you might not be able to see it, that comes right back. So you need to sort of leave the drive there, pull this cable through for the SSD mount, then you can snap it back into place. I'm even going to leave this a little bit forward as well to get my SATA cable in for my SSD. So we have that cable, the SSD, we've got the SATA power. I'm just going to thread this through around the back. I'm using the Asus black and white SATA cables because I just bought an Asus X99 Deluxe, and I honestly don't ever buy one of those boards. The only reason I can see it was deluxe is that it came with about 100 SATA cables. Other than that, just buy the normal one. Now this just snaps in basically. There's two little holes that you push in there, that snaps in, and then there is a couple of holes here to screw the drive in as well, which I'll do in a minute because I haven't got my screws. But yeah, just two little pins. Got that in place. Push that back in. Let's have a look around the back. As you can see, it's definitely getting a bit tight back here for my cable management. See all that in there? Yeah, snugly fits everything underneath. So I think this moves me on to, we need to have a look at the motherboard, the processor, the fans, and the graphics card. Not much left to go. Moving on to the CPU, then we'll just let this focus. As you can see, I've got an Intel Pentium G4400, and now it's only a dual core. It's not the best gaming chip, but it will play a lot of games. I've got videos of this with the 1050 Ti and the 1060 over on my channel. The only issue is there are some games that do really not work. Forza Horizon 3 would not launch. Also, it's not very good at Battlefield 1. But with this platform that we've bought here, this is my MSI H110 M Pro VD. Now this has already had a BIOS update, so you can upgrade to the upcoming Kaby Lake processors, but you can also upgrade a couple of months later. So here's a processor I bought secondhand. I wouldn't be ever put off buying secondhand processors, and it's an Intel Core i5-6400. Loads of videos of that on my channel as well if you want to have a look at that, with different graphics cards. And I picked that up for £120, which is less than an i3. So that's one thing I always recommend. Buy yourself a platform where you can upgrade, where you can move on and get another CPU. So we're just going to put that, let's get that all locked into place. As for the RAM, now I priced this up with 8GB of RAM. And I recommend buying this in one stick because it means then you can go up to 16. I know it all looks good populated, but yeah, I've priced this system up with 8GB of RAM. I'm not going to push it in now, down now. I'll put it in when it's on the case. I don't recommend just pushing down RAM unless it's only to, because of putting the CPU cooler on. Do that when it's in the case. But for this build, I am using 16GB because I have 16GB sitting around and it looks fantastic when all the RAM slots are full. So I'm not going to install this motherboard now, because the one thing we need to do is we need to think about fans, and we need to install all the fans into the case. Now again, with this system I priced it up that you're just going to use the stock cooler, but then you might decide to upgrade. You can get some great CPU coolers for under 20 quid for a processor like this. So as soon as you've installed that, you've only got one fan header. Now I've got 5 fans and a water pump to put in. So I think we need to go back to the case. I'm going to show you how this all works. So here are the fans we're using today. We've got 3 Gamer Storm, I don't know what brand they are. These are some blue LED fans because we're doing a bit of a blue themed build today. And they came with a, what was it, my Deep Cool Maelstrom 240 liquid cooler. And then we've got 3 Arctic F12s. So I've priced it up using the 3 Arctic F12s for this build. Now I love all the Arctic range of fans because they're just cheap. They look all right. The only thing is I'd love if these cables were braided. These are like £5 each, and up to 1000 RPM, they're really quiet. So as I mentioned earlier, we've got 1 fan header. Now ideally what you always want to do is buy 5 of the same fans if you wanted to pack it out with 5, 3, 2, whatever. This is what I said about earlier, not wanting the 92mm at the back, because the way the PWM works is that these fans are like 2000 RPM, these fans are 1000. Yeah, so when we say these are, if this is the main signal fan that's feeding the signal back and it's saying run at half speed, these will be running at 500 RPM. These are going to be running at 1000, which is going to lead to more noise. Now you've got 1 fan header. Now I know quite a lot of people say, oh, just put loads of fan splitters together and then you have some sort of octopus mess like this. As you can see, you can't even really see what this is, but basically this is 2 3-pin fan headers, splitters that I put together, PWM ones, whatever. So yeah, a couple of fan splitters. Now this isn't a good idea. Running all this off 1 header is just going to cause you troubles. As soon as you ramp all those fans up, you're probably going to blow your header, and then you're screwed, haven't you? Because then you've got 1 fan header to run everything off. I'm doing this a little bit different because I've got a water cooler as well, which you're going to see in a minute. I'm running the pump off a Molex, and then I'm going to have then I've got 2 free fan headers, so I'm going to have these 3 on one and 2 on the other. If you wanted to put all 5 fans together on 1 header, this is what you need. Now this adapter is from Gigabyte Solutions, I think, from memory. Here's a shot of it. And what this does is it adds a Molex into it as well. So that's going to power all your fans, and then all the PWM signal goes to it. So I'm going to get all these fans installed, and then I think we can install the motherboard. What I'm about to show you now is a very tricky way to install a motherboard, which takes great patience, but when done correctly, it adds to the extra real nice clean build and cable management. So as you can see, I've installed all my fans. We've got the 2 at the front here. You could put a 240 rad. What the cooler that I am going to install, which we'll install after the board is installed, is a Corsair H55 H50, which is going to go back there. So I'm running that. That's a 3-pin header, so I'm running that off a Molex connector, which you might have seen around the back earlier. So now we have I have 2 free fan headers. This is what's allowing me to run separate fans. So I'm going to put the fan splitter in here, and I don't want it to run back across my board this way. I want it to swing underneath my board, and that's why I've installed this fan before the cooler as well, so we can get this fan cable behind the motherboard. That's another one you can do as well. So you could have this, if you just had the 1 fan at the back, you could just have this fan coming back over. We don't need to do that because I can swing it all round down through the back, okay? But this is a really good method, and you just have to be patient when you do it, because you need it. I don't know if you can see this screw down here. You need it to not be in the way of that, but then also not in the way of your I/O shield. If it's in the way of your I/O shield, the motherboard won't fit. If it's in the way of here, your graphics card isn't going to fit. But as you can see, by installing it like that, really clean aesthetic, and we haven't got the fan cable over. So I was patient and I was rewarded for it. As you can see, I had a really fine little gap just down in here where I could put my fan header, and then my graphics card is still going to fit in. Now the cooler is in as well, the Corsair H50. As mentioned earlier, I did price up this build that you would be using the stock cooler, but if you were looking for a all-in-one liquid cooler and you're in the UK, they do sell out really quick, but get yourself over to scan.co.uk. I actually bought this one. This was a refurb, but it's factory refurb by Corsair. You still have the 5-year warranty. And I picked it up for it was under £30. I think it was £30 with delivery, which is an absolute bargain. This keeps the CPU so cool. Also, the i5 6400 barely ever went over like 45-50 degrees. As for the paste, I normally use Arctic MX4, which is what I ordered off eBay, but they sent me MX2 instead. A couple of degrees difference between the two, so we're just going to put a little bit on there. Now for these chips, you literally just need a tiny little amount. That's probably too much, but it really is just a small bit. I know everyone's got their own method. People like to spread it and stuff, but that's not for me. And then here we have the 3-pin as well for the pump, which is going around the back. So basically, on the Molex connectors, I've got a Molex connector to a fan header, which came with some fan that I bought ages ago, I think. Chances are you might have one of those in your box, but that's what I said about planning builds. It's really good to plan builds, because the amount of times I order everything and I'm like, oh crap, I haven't got this cable. And well, I have, most likely, because I build loads of stuff all the time, but... And there we go. So you just will twist that and then install your cooler. One thing always to mention as well, never over tighten coolers as well. That does need a little bit more twisting. I need to get my hand underneath it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all these cables sorted, and then we're going to install the graphics card. Then we can run some gaming benchmarks for you to see. So for the graphics card, I am using the Gigabyte Gtx 1050 Ti Windforce. This is a 6-pin power edition. Now this thing runs so cool. Even I've got it overclocked. If you want to see, I've got loads of videos of this. Running overclocked at 1911 megahertz. It is literally so cool. You barely have to have the fans ramping up at all. It's overall, this is going to sound a bit noisy when I turn this system on. But as soon as it loads up, as soon as I get into BIOS and the fan software kicks in, this thing is so quiet. I can't find any of my fan extension cables, not fan extension cables, PCI extension cables, which is sort of bugging me a bit because I don't like this. I don't like the look of that. But as for extension cables, you will get away with putting a PCI extension cable in here, like a nice braided one, but you're definitely not going to be able to put them around the back. I'm not even going to show you the cable management around the back because I've just spent about 10 minutes putting the back on. That is one thing you're always going to struggle with these builds, is cable management. As you can see as well on here, I will mention I've installed blue LED strips, and the reason I've installed these 2 strips which run to a Molex is basically because, you'll see when we put this on in a minute, I forgot to mention this earlier, this is a smoked window. Now when you have a smoked window, you will not get any light coming out of here to look inside your build, so you are going to have to pack in extra lights so you can have a look. Anyway, let's go in for a closer look. As you can see here, sorry, getting a bit of glare, but it does look really nice. You do need to add these extra lights just to pack through. So we've got the hard drives, all the cabling's nice and tidy. Got the graphics card, we've got a water cooler. You know, these are all extras you can add in from this additional budget that I've set today. So overall, a really nice looking build. I'm so surprised how clean this has come up, really. Of course, we've got some cables in here that you can see. I'm not going to stick my hands in too far because I'm really prone to hitting fans. But you can see we have got a bit of cables. Maybe you can push some of those out of the way and stuff. But overall, this case has done a fantastic job at doing a budget build. So let me show you the benchmarks then.
Attention to all hazardous personnel. There will be an
satisfactory performance, Stormtrooper.
So there you go, there's the build. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it was a bit long, but as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, lots of tips and tricks I wanted to share there. And as for the benchmarks, as you can see, the Intel G4400, in CPU intensive games, you are going to notice that it becomes the bottleneck, as you can see in Battlefield 1. It is a really good pairing with a 1050 Ti though. It seems the 1050 Ti runs at its sort of max around 60 frames per second in Ultra in most games. But if you go to my channel and go right down to the bottom of the playlists on my homepage of my channel, I have a section called Battle of the Bottlenecks, and you can see the G4400 with the GTX 1060, and you will really start to see the bottlenecks come out more. But as I showed you earlier, we can just swap it out for an i5-6400 a little bit later. You can buy second-hand Skylake i3s for under £100 if you find them at the right time and win that bid. So anyway, there's my budget-based build. I hope you like it, and I hopefully will be back with another build within the next couple of weeks. I think I've got something really special for you planned, even probably cheaper than this. Thanks for watching.